hearing. We will officially consider this meeting in order at, that clock is a little off, so at 5:02 p.m.
That's correct.
Who's off? We'll proceed first with our roll call. Invite our city clerk to conduct that for us.
Okay. Mayor Smith?
Present.
Andy Wilson?
Present.
Mark Fennison?
He's indicated that he would not be available for tonight's meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. That's excused then. Okay. Who's next? Justin Olson?
Present.
Joe Shy?
Present.
Kevin Flynn?
Present.
All present. Not all
Even
present.
without Mr. Fennison, we do have quorum, so we will proceed and do so by joining in the Pledge of Allegiance. I would invite all to please arise. Mr. Wilson, would you please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will adhere to the agenda as much as possible. It's my privilege at this public hearing to extend a cordial welcome to all present, and particularly to the members of the Vader City Council who are seated before you. No formal introductions are required. But I would set the stage for what's about to transpire by informing you here, if you're not already aware of how such things work, is that it's my authority and responsibility to conduct this public hearing. It is the public's opportunity to provide information to members of the council. That is the sole objective of tonight's meeting. Your expectation is that the members of the City Council will hear your opinions, your feedback to them impartially and objectively, and so that they can assimilate the input that you're providing to them. The subject matter to which we will focus tonight pertains to an ordinance that was passed. Do you have the official date of the passage of that ordinance?
It was, I don't remember. I put it on there. Let's see.
First meeting in January.
January 23rd.
Okay. That's important because this public hearing is being conducted pursuant to the guidelines articulated in that ordinance, which requires that a public hearing be held within 60 days of passage of this ordinance. And it's an ordinance that relates to the prohibition of the siting, establishment, and operation of any structures, property, or uses relating to recreational or medical marijuana production, processing, cultivation, storage, sale, delivery, exchange, or bartering to be in effect until the city adopts permanent zoning regulations on the same subject. And this includes a prohibition on the submission of business license applications for such uses. And this interim ordinance is to be effective immediately, setting 6 months as the effective period of the interim zoning ordinance. So, your comments to the City Council need to pertain to your feelings, opinions relating to this 6-month interim ordinance, relating to those issues of the marijuana as articulated in the ordinance. And the responsibilities of the council, as I indicated, are to listen to the comments made. You hopefully will take notes as to who is speaking and what their particular opinions are. And at the conclusion of the comments, So at this meeting, the council has given me the general consensus that if they would like it to last no more than an hour. The council, at the conclusion of the comments from the public, the council can take one of several options, but this is for your edification as well. You can do nothing as it pertains to this ordinance tonight, or the council, if you hear testimony that is compelling and you feel so motivated, you could submit a motion at the end of the commentary to repeal this ordinance at tonight's meeting. Or you can choose to do nothing. Or you can simply extend the ordinance for the remainder of its 6-month time period. Does that make sense? So when we've heard the comments, then the council can opt to do nothing, or they can continue with the ordinance, or you can repeal it. It's important to note, however, that at the next City Council meeting, the ordinance requires that the City Council take formal action after considering the statements of fact. And that has to happen at our next City Council meeting. So I hope that's clear. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes,
clear. All right. So on our next council meeting is Thursday, the 27th of next week at 6:30 p.m. at the same location. With that, I think we should proceed. I believe that those of you who might have an interest in making a comment, obviously our objective is to be fair, and since I've heard no complaints from the council, try and ensure that this meeting conclude within an hour. It would be appropriate to see by a show of hands how many individuals we have, or if we've gotten...
There's 6.
6? Is there anyone in the audience who's not signed the comment sheet that would like to? Okay, we have 7. Is there any other individual? Okay. So, did you pass out the sheet?
Yes.
Okay, articulating. I think that I would, has council had an opportunity to read these comments, and I will read this. Public comment information. The comment portion of the public hearing is designed to hear all opinions regarding the passage of Ordinance 2014-01 and whether it should be repealed or left in place for the interim period of 6 months. If the opinion you support has already been stated previously in the meeting, we respectfully suggest that you do not use the time to restate the same opinion, but state that, quote, my opinion is the same as, state the name of the individual whose opinion you agree with. Each person's opinion will be counted and heard by City Council and will be considered in the Council's final decision. So, that's advice given to you. And it isn't intended to turn into a free-for-all, so I would hope that we would be able, given the sensitivity of this subject, to demonstrate some civility and respect for all who have chosen to stand and speak to the Council. And any additional inflammatory commentary from the audience would be improper. Okay, so with those guidelines in place, I don't think that the time I've taken ought to count against the time required from the commenters. You okay with that? Yep. Okay, so my time doesn't take away from time from the public. So with that, if we have 7, there are 60 minutes in an hour. 8.5 minutes. Okay. So, but the council will have to take some action based on what they heard. So, what do you say we go 8 minutes?
Sounds great.
Okay. I'll take a formal time, and if you go less than 8 minutes, well, then that doesn't mean that you can pass your time on to the next person. All right, with that having been said, I will stay quiet, and we'll proceed in the order of those who've signed up.
If it's okay, Mayor, can I just mention to the people who just
Yes.
walked in, did you guys want to make comments? If you do, you need to sign the sheet, okay? All right, just want to make sure that they knew that was there. Okay. The first person on the list is Hallie Sword.
Hi. I think that there are so many questions that have not been answered at this point in time that I don't see how the city council can make an informed decision. I've become acquainted with a retired, as he put it, a retired herb farmer. And he's told me quite a bit about marijuana growing, the insecticides that are used, the various chemicals. This is a very reliable source, but I'm not here to debate. At any rate, at another time I mentioned there's a book called an MSDS book, Material Data Safety, which is required by OSHA. Every chemical that Mr. Milton uses in his plant, from what he cleans his toilet with to what they oil their equipment with, has to be in that book. I have to update them for my employment in 27 buildings. I'm well acquainted with it. I think the council should see what kind of products are going to be used in there. Now, the second point I have to make is about the kids. A lady made a comment to me. She grew up in this area. She went to a neighboring high school, and every time a kid from Vader got in trouble, it was, oh, well, you know, she's from Vader, he's from Vader. And the general attitude was this was just a really loser town with no direction. And she moved here, and she has since realized what a wonderful place this is. And in this tiny town of 200 homes, where we don't have a school or a library, or many other things, we're going to have a pot plant. What message does that send to these kids? And anyone who doesn't think this isn't going to increase the amount of marijuana used by the young is deluding themselves. Marijuana is a gateway drug to a dead-end life. I'm not talking about medical marijuana. I have seen too many kids who never made it back to finish college, who got washed out of the Plum Electrical Apprentice Program, who didn't make it through high school, who can't quite organize their life after that. And you talk to them 10 or 15 years later, which I've done, and ask them what they think happened. And did some of this start happening when you started smoking pot? How many people do you know that do other drugs that didn't first start out with pot? And it's not going to be an answer to drinking. The kids that got stoned, or the kids are going to get stoned, and the kids get drunk, and now they're going to get to do both. And if you don't think it's going to end up as a big fat stamp of approval by the adults in this community of Vader, that you let a pot plant come into this teeny tiny town, let it go somewhere else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Brandon Melton.
My name is Brandon. I own the industrial property on the edge of town, and I'm one of a handful of companies that have applied to operate on that property to produce and process marijuana. I don't think it's any secret that the majority of our city council is not favorable to marijuana. So I'm not talking to you today necessarily to try to change your mind about how you feel about marijuana. Clearly, there's a range of opinion. You've heard from Hallie. I'm sure there are other people that are upset with just the idea of marijuana, whether there's a practical issue here or not. That doesn't change how you feel about it. You're entitled to your opinion. We all are, and that's reasonable. What I would like you to think about as a council is just the ramification of how is handled in Vader, though. And what I mean by that is you're acting not just as another citizen with an opinion, but you're crafting the law that's going to govern the business we do in this town. And with that in mind, I want to give you an argument that's a Republican argument spearheaded by Kandata out of Wenatchee. The argument goes as follows. You are not necessarily choosing between having marijuana in town and not having marijuana in town by your yes or no vote on whether to allow it. What you're choosing between is whether you have legal marijuana in town or whether you have illegal marijuana in town. The way this works is you obviously have a statewide system that's been voted on. Whether you like marijuana, whether you hate marijuana, it is now legal in this state. But there's so many cities that are fighting that new law, like Vader. They're interested in having a ban on marijuana, that's going to have the effect of, it's like a patchwork system throughout our state. So we're going to have areas of access to marijuana, and then we're going to have these black zones where there is no marijuana legally. And the next step is to think, well, what effect does that have? And the answer is the same as it was in Prohibition. And this is the same reason why plenty of counties, plenty of cities started out in Prohibition with a ban, and over time, they all reversed it, because nobody likes organized crime in their midst, nobody likes illegal activity. And what the patchwork system does is it moves the people that were illegal operators out of the areas that are now accepting of marijuana in this case, and it moves them into town. So we already know, if you look at your neighbors, if you go out west, you have towns like Raymond that have welcomed marijuana with open arms. I think their city is getting something like $30,000 a month now, just in rent. That's what the city is making to lease their property out. They've been welcoming business to come to their town. If you go south, you have places like Kelso to accommodate it, Windlock to the north. I mean, it's all around you here. So if you want to say no and you want to ban marijuana, what you're doing is you're banning legal marijuana. If I was an illegal drug dealer and I was in Windlock, suddenly Windlock is paving the way to a legal store. I know that a customer in Windlock is much more inclined to walk into a brightly lit store where they have a legal product they can buy, it's clean, it's tested, it's regulated, they can swipe their debit card, be on their way. Why would they go deal with the guy in the alley with some cash transaction for an illegal product? It doesn't make sense. So if you're that guy that's dealing, you're going to move to an area where it's illegal. So you're moving to places like Vader that are going to put a ban on this. So if you're interested, in other words, in keeping marijuana out of town, it may seem reasonable to say no, to put a ban in place, but what you're saying no to is legal marijuana, and you're actually saying yes to illegal marijuana. You'll have more of it. That's not just my opinion. That's the Republican Party, and that's the reason why marijuana was not reconciled between recreational marijuana and medicinal marijuana in the legislative session that ended. So they're wrangling about it, and it's a fight about the money. The Republicans would like to see tax money derived from the sale of marijuana funneled directly to the communities, the counties, the cities, wherever it is, where marijuana is located. And I think that makes sense. You can say as a city, hey, if we're going to play host to a new industry, we should also see money from that industry. That's a reasonable argument. And I think that's a productive way where the city can pursue revenue, you can pursue policing, you can get better coverage, better law enforcement in town, and that's done through legal marijuana. If you say no to that, there's no money that comes the way for additional policing, and you have additional illegal marijuana. So you're going to have this problem where more marijuana, more illegal drugs are in town, and you have less resources to deal with that. So I would hope that you can work with companies like mine to craft a thoughtful policy that we can use to work together and find common ground with marijuana policy. Currently, the policy for City Hall is to not talk to me. So I can't sit down and meet with anybody. The majority of City Hall, you know, everybody, 3 out of you guys have turned over just since I've been talking about this. So there are 3 counselors I have been prevented from sitting down and talking with. I mean, if this was something uncontroversial, if we were talking about a fireworks display for the 4th of July, some people wanted a big show, some people thought it was too big, you would at least sit down and talk to people that had a different opinion than you. And yet this is something much more important than that, and you're not willing to sit down and even talk to me about it. I mean, is that the kind of public policy that we want? So if something gets into an issue we disagree about, we just stop talking about it? I mean, even if we're on different sides of the issue, is that the kind of precedent we want to set for city government, that we just put up a wall between City Hall and anybody that has a different opinion? We just don't want to talk about it anymore? I don't think that's good policy, and I don't think that's going to lead to the best outcome. I would much rather have an open dialogue, a public dialogue, where we can talk about both sides of the issue and try to come to common ground. I'm certainly available for questions, both from council and from anybody else in the community, if you're interested in hearing more about what our project looks like, if you're interested in working with me to make this as good as we can make for everybody. Even if we don't get along, I'd like to find that common ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as tempting as it is to provide rebuttal to commentary, it isn't the forum to do that. I know that there were at least 1 or 2 points here that I'm sure we would love to respond to. But this is a public hearing in which we sit and listen. So the nature of this proceeding.
Okay. Next is Don Davidson.
Good evening, council members. I think I saw you earlier this afternoon. What a wonderful sewer deluge that was. My name's Don Davidson. I'm site manager at Brandon Milton's pot farm. And I got to admit, things have changed in the last 6 months that I've been working there. I mean, things have changed. We have a drug-free zone there, even though it's kind of an oxymoron that we're going to be producing medical or recreational, whatever we're allotted to here in the future. I'm building a nursery. I'm taking over where a man had done for almost 7 years, been working there. Sure, it was going to be a wrecking yard to start with, and the improvements that were there are astronomically amounts of money that have been put into it just for that. Things change, and so do cities. I would love to see this beautiful city that we have here. I've actually thought about moving here. Mine live in Winlock, Vader, I have property there too. I've been looking at different buildings. I really want to, and I want to call this home, just like other people with their children would. I don't use pesticides, as far as so to say. Things that are over the top of the things. And yes, we will be writing everything down that you would like to see at any time. I'm always, like Mr. Milton is, open for being able to meet with council members, especially the new ones, haven't seen this yet. We're the other side of the coin. It's going to be a drug-free zone to where no one's in and out without our approval or appointment by the state regulations. Everything is dotted on the I's and dotted across the T's. That's a must. Everything is within the state's regulations of legality of every factor that we possibly can do there within manufacturing and producing. Yes, and it could be a very large site, and there could be more people that would come to our Vader to be able to use our facility for just the purpose of growing marijuana. I want to call it, actually, let's get off the marijuana. That's stereotype. That's hippie talk. Let's go to cannabis. Let's go into the medical factors, the other 27 carcinogens that are into this beautiful plant that back in the Prohibition, as Mr. Milton also did declare. The research of Mr. Richard Simmons that did the cancer research that one of your lovely ladies that, one of my people brought in, of how all the carcinogens are doing cancer receipts, all the medical research for as far as the Alzheimer's and the other types of disorders of the brain that calms people down, or even to the point where people are in the latter stages of hospice where the drugs are no longer working because they have to take so many opiates or morphines that they can't even feel it, where the people's pieces of their body are falling off like lepers, or just because they have no dead feelings in this, and they become to the point where they just become numb because there's so much drugs in them. Cannabis gives them the energy to be able to want to eat again. Most of the times when they shut down, they're either eating bad foods, they're not doing it. At the end stages, I've seen them turn around and they turn their whole lives around. Well, let's get into the factors of religion and state here also next too. Because I believe in God. I believe in God in this country. And every factor of the military that could ever come out of this thing, I would say God bless our troops and our instant people that go to the instant responders. Thank God for them. And if we can add to them with another type of medicine it's going to take from mental disorders to all the way to eating disorders to make the people coming out of cancer, all the power to us. Next factors, chemicals that are on my water table, none. I have a cistern upon the state's request upon all the way around. We call it the moat. I've got 4 sides. I'm not going to be dumping anything into the Olicquah. And I do not mean anything from rat poisons. I have a rat dog. He's great. You should see his name's Cooter. He eats rats. Fantastic. Let's talk about fertilizers. Fish fertilizer. I would call that pretty much natural or almost organically friendly. There's other wonderful ones that are even more expensive that I can use over the counters. Totally regulated. Groundwaters. We have a wonderful well over there. You know, to the point where there's water everywhere. You have to dig a hole. I dug one, and it's full 2 days later. I'm talking to Lake Milton, actually. Yeah, so I'm supportive of this because it's my livelihood, and about 4 other men that are working beside me. And the nice thing about it is that there's a lot of people that I've hired here in this community that don't have any chance other than having this type of a job. I mean, the young people I've tried hiring, let's call them tweakers. Let's call them potheads. Let's call them meth addicts going rampant in our lovely, lovely community. That's got to happen by our policing and our people that leaving the family unit, like calling our children pot. You know, I was pot. I started at a young age. I have a green thumb. I'm a recovering meth addict. I know how it is. The urge is always there. It's a starter drug. But you know, I chose to decide when I met Mr. Milton about 6 months ago to the date. I told him I'm going to give you a year, drug-free, and I chose to change my whole life because I'm going to be able to grow someday with my green thumb over my nursery that I'm building. If I don't get a permit today, or next month, or next year, I'm still going to be ready when it does fall, when the state legalizes it. There's a lot of that because it will come. It's a big enough. You can't even imagine the cornucopia of money that's going to be coming through this industry. I mean, you think about people smoking cigarettes. Does anybody smoke cigarettes here? How about have a glass of wine? How about, let's say, use Tylenol or Tylenol 3, or even go to the doctor and get opiates for a prescription. Do you use those? Some people can't afford them. Some people can't afford them. Some people can't afford the insurance that it takes to get those. I can't. So I have problems sleeping. My mind will not shut off. Sometimes the only thing it'll take care of it is I eat a cookie. I make some of the best, let's say, stereotypical brownies. I'm an award winner when it comes to hippies. They put you in a fetal position, but I'm not going to give them just to anybody. These are the cookies for myself. This is the power that puts my medicines down. And I know what it takes my body to make myself go down, just like everybody else that does medical marijuana. They know it works for them. And most of us, we can't afford the things of the corporate style, because it's not a corporate city here, obviously. I'm from Portland, and I came up here for my father's health purposes to take care of him last summer. And oh my goodness, you guys, I came from Portland, from the hood. I had a person die in my front yard 2 years ago. In my trailer, it has bullet holes from, then I said, it's time to move home to Winlock. Thank you for that, by the way. And in conclusion, and I think I've stated a few things, and I don't want to sound like I'm a popcorn machine, but that's what my brain is. And the only thing that settles it down is by eating cannabis. And it settles me at last to the point where I can sleep. And I need my beauty sleep, trust me. I need my beauty sleep. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, didn't ask too much.
Okay. Jane Waite, is that right?
I'm Jane Waite, and this is my partner, Tony Ballabon, from Tulsa. I just want to say I'm in support of Brandon Milton's opinion. Is that good enough? Do I need to have a speaker? We are both in support of Brandon's opinion.
Was the recorder able to capture?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
What was your name again?
My name is Jane Waite, I'm sorry, Tony Ballabon, Bollibon.
Is council ready for the next presenter?
Excuse me, I have one question. If this whole thing transpires like the council would like, who's the law enforcement agency that's you're gonna answer to?
Lewis County Sheriff's Department. Lewis County Sheriff's Department.
Well, I talked to them on my own situation.
But unfortunately, I can answer that question outside of this public hearing. We really need to focus on the ordinance in this public hearing.
Okay. Is it Stephen Riley?
Sorry.
Hi, my name's Steve Riley. Moved here from Alabama 3.5 years ago to work for a medical marijuana growing facility. I'm a medical patient. I'm bipolar, back pain, different other things like that, depression. Medical marijuana does help me tremendously to get through the day and get into sleep at night. This is my livelihood, working for Brandon. So I'm very glad to be at this meeting and in support of Brandon. Thank you.
Rodney Allison?
Hi, guys. We can sit up here and argue back and forth whether it's religiously or politically or legally, whatever. But the point is, it's a business. And we're teetering on losing the whole town. I mean, all we've got left is sewer plant and no income. It's going to be one of the most safeguarded businesses there is because the state's the one buying it. He's not like going to be packing it and selling it up here on the street. People are going to do whatever they want. And, and crime is always going to be there because something's legal. I mean, whether it's a gun, criminals are going to steal them. And the point being is we need a business, and it's a legal business now. It's shown that, and it's going to be sold to state, so it's going to be, and it's definitely going to have a lot of money tied in it just because, and everybody knows it. So I think we should proceed with it. He's got the building, he's willing to take it, and at least you can safeguard it. I mean, we can go right uptown here. There's illegal grows right now, and they're selling it, and it's like no biggie to them. They don't care, and the law can't really afford to enforce it. As for meth, you can go under most kitchen sinks, take some Drano and cold medicines, and they'll break it down and make it. Opiates for Price Sister and stuff are made from poppy plants. I mean, there's all kinds of things in life, but I mean, it's going to be here one way or the other, just like alcohol, and I think we ought to just take the step. It's all going to be fenced in. The state's going to really be hard-nosed on the first ones to get it. We got nothing to lose, and we got everything to gain. I mean, we're still going to be here, whether it's legal or illegal, and whether or not it gets enforced. I mean, we might as well get some money out of it instead of losing money trying to throw it down the tube. I mean, we ain't got much chance left if we're going to be a town, so I mean, we've got to have some kind of business, and that one's going to be a profitable one, regardless of who runs it. I mean, everybody's already making fortunes off it. So, I mean, I think we ought to look at it like a professional business and proceed with it and let the state oversee it. It's going to be razor wire and everything else. I mean, if they want to get in, the locks keep only the honest people out, so.
Is it Greg Carlson?
Forget it.
No? That's it. That's it.
Might there be anybody else in the audience who is inspired to stand and be heard?
Well, yeah, my name's Bob Goff, and
Come over here.
my concern is all this fighting and stuff that the council's doing, isn't that coming out of somebody's pocket, our pocket? By you co-opting with this to fight, didn't that cost money? I mean, to me, I think if you wanted to not have it, you should have set back or something, or other than joining the co-op and, you know, making this ordinance. I don't agree with the ordinance. I think that we should repeal it. I think that we need the business in town. And I think that with the scrutiny with you guys being here and demanding Milton to lay out everything, not just say he's applying and he wants this and he wants that. You want something concrete. You want something that you can read and see. That's what I'd want if I was you. Instead of just saying, you know, our kids are going to be exposed to this. They already are. They're exposed in 3rd and 4th grade. So they're educated. You know, they're probably more educated than you about the world. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Sir, can you spell your last name, please?
GOFF?
G-O-F-F. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that went more quickly than I really anticipated, but well and good. So, if there are no other individuals that would like to be heard, then I would invite the council to, at this moment in time, to consider the options which you have. I could repeat them if you'd like. You could choose to do nothing today and wait until the next city council meeting, next Thursday, to consider the findings of fact which you've heard. Or you could, if something has moved you, you have the authority at this moment to repeal the ordinance that was passed on January 25th. You have that authority. Or you could, by doing nothing, this ordinance terminates in 6 months, as you are well aware. And you could opt to extend it tonight for an additional 6 months if you so chose. So those are your basic options.
If we decide to wait for the council meeting, do we, at the council meeting, do we vote to either repeal it or to make it permanent? Is that what we would do at the council meeting then?
Or you could extend it for another 6 months.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But your objective would be to take the opinions that you heard tonight and assimilate them with the evidence and information that you have received from previous meetings, public hearings. And I would assert here that next Thursday night's meeting would be an opportunity for you to perhaps provide some responsive commentary to the statements of opinion and fact that you've heard tonight, too. So, yes.
I'd like to ask a question, if that's all right. Have we legally had any application for a license?
I haven't checked in the last 2 weeks.
The city has not.
No.
That's what I'm asking.
Oh,
City has not.
No.
And then, I heard at one of our meetings that there was 8 permits that was filed
With the state.
with the state.
I believe that's what you're referring to,
Yeah,
with the liquor board. Yeah.
but we have none to the city at the present time.
No.
Well, the ordinance would prohibit even the consideration of
Right.
applications, so no.
We step on our part?
Well, if you decide to take no action, there's no need for a motion, and we could simply declare the meeting closed.
I wouldn't want us to take no action. I would rather say that we take this and they presented information I think we should consider and read it all. And if we have rebuttals, come up with those rebuttals, and then bring it up at our next meeting and pass or fail it. That's my opinion.
Okay, that's a suggestion you've heard from Mr. Flynn. Are there other comments or opinions that the members of the council would like to declare?
I'd like to wait till next week as well.
You can do it. Mr. Wilson, what is your feeling?
Same thing. Yeah, I like to wait as well.
All right. So, very good. With that council decision, and absent any further commentary, we will